All right, welcome to Transform You. This is Dean and HollyKem Sunseri. We're both professional life coaches, and our podcast is really to do life coaching for you to witness it, to experience it, and if you're dealing with a similar issue, for you to actually experience some help in addition to our guest today. And we have a wonderful guest, Rick. One of our favorite things, we're from New Orleans, so we love music.
Yes.
And so we found out he's a jazz piano player, musician, very passionate about that. We're going to work with him today. And I'm going to let him introduce himself, not only verbally, but he's going to introduce himself with some music, and then we'll get right into working with him. Good. Hey, Rick, good to have you.
Hey, thank you so much. It's so great to be here. It's such a unique type of show for me to be on, and I'm so grateful to the work that you guys do, actually healing people right before your very eyes. I'm gonna actually play a song that kind of describes what I would guess that your patients have to go through before they get to you and you get to address their issues. Because this song, if you hear it's a very old song written by Charlie Chaplin, and if you hear the words, it's kind of like the person's almost saying, "Hey, you just got to smile in spite of this and in spite of that." So it tries to keep people like us, or people with debility, whatever's bothering them, at least in a positive mood until they get to someone like you where they can get the assistance they need. So here we go. Smile though your heart is aching. Smile even though it's breaking when there are clouds in the sky. You'll get by if you smile through your fear and sorrow. Smile and maybe tomorrow you'll see the sun come shining through for you. Lights up your face with gladness, hide every trace of sadness. Although tear may be ever so near, that's the time you must keep on trying. Smile, what's the use of crying? You'll find that life is still worthwhile if you just smile.
We're going to transition into the coaching. Yet I encourage you to listen to this beautiful rendition of Smile at the end of this podcast.
Oh, beautiful.
Yes. Yes. So beautiful.
Yeah,
Thank you.
very appropriate.
Yes. It's an interesting thing. I remember reading a study that when you smile and when you laugh, it actually creates almost like endorphins in the brain that change your brain chemistry, right? So we know our mood is impacted by serotonin, dopamine, and there's something about smiling. Really, it's beautiful. I think I didn't know that was written by Charlie Chaplin, but there's something about that, creating that with your mouth and changing your chemistry by just creating smiles. And I think it also, interesting enough, is that it creates smiles in other people too, right? So it's almost like a passing around a feel good drug. I smile at you, you smile back, and all of a sudden our brain chemistry is changing. So I think it's just an interesting key to things. It also reminds me of a whole nother subject. I won't get into it right now, but remind me to talk about Sting's song, Lithium Sunset, and then I'll come circle back to that. But let's get into our coaching today. Won't you tell us a little bit about what you would like us to work on, and we'll jump right in.
Well, a couple things I told you. One was, I've had lower back problems just recently, but it's an off and on thing, and then sometimes it just goes out, overwhelms me. I haven't had this happen since last year, around March of last year. It just went out, and I could hardly walk. And the same thing happened about 4 days ago. But generally speaking, just an overall thing. I, for some reason, will go to bed at night, and by the time I wake up in the morning, I feel like every problem that everyone is facing in the entire world, from Israel and Palestine to maybe someone being abused by their, parent or caregiver, whatever it is, every problem of everybody has somehow been pushed upon, like somehow just the heavy, like a giant safe upon me. And I feel like I'm lifting Atlas just to get out of bed. And not only that, but even situations with myself that might be not necessary, because I might have overcome the adversity and actually wouldn't trade my life now for that, or made the right decision even though there was unfairness involved. But for some reason or other, all of those, everything seems to converge on me when I wake up. So the
When you
first thing
wake
I do
up.
is I open my eyes and I say, oh my God, do I have to? Can I just go back to sleep? Did this have to happen that I had to wake up, And then, of course, once I actually get up, especially if I get to a gym or I get somewhere, the whole thing passes. But I can't understand why all of that weight of the world should be hoisted upon me right at the second I wake up.
Okay.
That's
Yeah.
good.
Makes no
So,
sense.
well, a couple questions. How long has this been happening? Has it been a long time or has it
I
been
would
something more
say
recent?
years. I would say a
Years.
number of years. Yes. I
Okay.
don't know how many, but it's been going on for years. Because I remember just even, waking up in other places, in other cities or other states, and still feeling it and having to force myself to get started and get rolling. And then once I got rolling, it all ended up behind me. But
It lifts.
then, in other words, even a change of location wouldn't necessarily stop that
I
from me.
see.
Sure, sure. So it's been your adult life, though.
I would say adult life, yeah. I
Adult
mean,
life.
maybe it could. I'm trying to think if it could be in the morning. I remember in the morning, like when I was a kid, like I remember just situations like I was told I had to get up and go to school, and I was like, why do I have to go to school? I thought, what is this school thing or something like that? So I
Yeah.
mean, I maybe isolated situations growing up, but yeah, in my adult and especially the last, as far back as I remember, recent years, every day.
And has it increased more recently or has it been about the same,
The heaviness.
the heaviness? Yeah.
It has not gone backwards. In other words, it has not
Okay.
receded. It may have increased,
I
but
see.
I can go way back. I can go back into my 20. I can go back decades with this, just with, feeling that heaviness or whatever, I can definitely go back quite a ways.
Okay, good.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Well, I was just going to say, you know, for us, it's like there's the way we dissect the self is in three parts. So, the part of you that's the creative part, the part that you've been designed to be all that God intends you to be, right? Your true self, your authentic self, the part that plays music, the part that creates, the part that loves, and then the part that we're wounded, in life from childhood all the way up, just that whole bucket. I put it like in a bucket, like that we have this bucket that when we can't grieve things, everything goes in that bucket. And then the way we handle that bucket, right? That we don't want it, we don't want no more in that bucket, right? So we come up with this other part that how to function in the world. But it's for me, it appears to be that when you open your eyes, that your true self doesn't wake up in the morning. Your
Okay.
your wounded self sees the
Ah,
world.
I like that. Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
waking my wounded self is what comes out. And it even
yeah,
makes me wonder, like, what do you guys feel like when you wake up in the morning? Because the wounded part has been a part
yeah.
of my wake up, and I don't even know what it's like to wake up maybe the way you guys do.
Right. Well, what's so powerful about what you're saying is I don't think you're alone in this. I don't think you're alone in this at all. I think this is awesome what you're bringing to the table because in the process, it's like you open your eyes, and the first thing, the part of you that has your eyes and has your feelings is your wounded self, and it wakes up and it has obviously so much compassion because it's not like you're waking up and you feel like you said, sometimes it's about you, sometimes it's about something that you've already dealt with that it reminding you of it, right? And then you can go back and go, well, no, well, look, I handled it this way and all is well, right?
Mhm.
But what you were when you were expressing it, what was coming up was that this part of you wakes up and it sees the world. It sees the pain of the world. It feels the heaviness of all of that pain in the world. That part of you is so compassionate and so empathetic with people and the world that when you go through your day, you do your thing and you go to bed and you rest. But that's not who wakes up. Not the person that went to sleep isn't the person that's waking up in you. That part of you that's waking up is this compassionate, empathetic person that's small, right? And when you're small, you can't handle all that, right? It's like that part of us.
Overwhelming.
Yeah, it's overwhelming. It's like the part of us that is wounded feels very little, right? So it's
Right.
like, how is this little part of me that has all of this compassion for the world is going to be able to handle Israel, Palestine, hunger, homeless, addiction, all the things that are so painful in our world that we see, even if you don't watch the news, you know it, right? So it's like this heaviness of that is this part of you is opening up. When you open up, that's who comes first. That's what I'm
Are
seeing.
you ready for a journey of self discovery and healing? Introducing a roadmap to the soul, a practical guide to love, compassion, and inner peace. This book offers practical tools and insights to navigate your inner landscape, release emotional blockages, and embrace your authentic self. Start your transformational journey today by getting your copy now. See the link in the description. And now, back to the lesson.
You can
Yeah.
go there.
Yeah, I think that's good. I would also add that what is it that when you say it's overwhelming and it's heavy, if you describe that a little more, would you say it's connected to like sadness? Is it connected to just like a depressed type feeling, or is it any hope
Know what
connected
it's
to it?
connected to? Injustice.
Injustice.
Injustice. Oh,
Gotcha.
that's
Yes.
good.
I feel injustice. I feel the injustice of the world and
Mhm.
also the injustice that I have to deal with on a regular basis
Gotcha.
around me, almost surrounded by injustice. And then I have to wrestle with the fact that, well, wait a minute now. As far as me concerned,
Mhm.
I'm okay with it
Yeah.
because I have made these decisions that I wouldn't change. And maybe it's gotten me in a situation where some bad people envy me and want me or want the worst, or or people want to take advantage of me because I became vulnerable. But I made those decisions, so I should be able to, but I'm still as disappointed in the injustice surrounding me as I
Yes.
am in the injustice around the whole world. And I
So
just feel
a question I have for you
injustice
is
everywhere.
the question I would have for you, and you can answer it as specifically or as general as possible. What are any time in your life the top three experiences, two or three experiences where you experienced injustice?
Well, I would have to say, for me, it's when you bring back the ruby slipper of the Wicked Witch of the West, and you still don't get the balloon back to Kansas. Okay, because see, when we were kids, we watched The Wizard of Oz and we saw all that Dorothy went through. And then at the end, he did try to screw her out of that thing. He was like,
Right.
I'm nobody, and he tried to get her to go away. And she pulled that curtain, Toto pulled the curtain, and they say, no, 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 no. We did our ruby slipper. You said if we did it, we're going to get this. And now you have to do what your thing is. You know what I mean? And so for me, that's when I really feel the injustice, not just myself, but everyone out. I feel so much. I feel so many people, okay, have done their part. And then they said, oh no, it was all a facade. It was all a BS. Sorry. Well, we were hoping that you wouldn't do your part so we could blame you
Mm.
for, well, you just didn't get that ruby slipper. Sorry. I mean, if you'd gotten it, we would have given you the air balloon, but you didn't get, so sorry. No tamale. Oh, I feel so bad for you. But no, no, no. So many people go and do what they're asked to do, and then they get screwed out of what they were promised. And
Yeah.
Yeah.
those are situations when those situations happen to me, and I can give you a lot of them where I did what was asked. I mean, I'll give you an example musically, I mean, as a musician, because you heard me play,
Right.
I wanted to be the type of musician that would be hired by everybody once because I qualified. You can play favorites and you can say, well, I don't like him, or my cousin here, I have to hire her daughter because they grew up, but this guy, he has an original sound. He has acclaimed, he has ruby slippers. You know what I mean?
Right.
We got to give him one time he's going to play here. And maybe some places will say, oh, we want you every year. We love you. But other places, you know what? We're going to give you your one time because we're going to be fair we're going to respect your credentials and your talent and your dedication, all you've done. And on top of that, what about respecting the 850 events I've played for outstanding causes all around the world through the art form of jazz? What about the 9 trips to Africa? What about the concert at the United Nations where I brought Israeli, Palestinian, and American musicians together? That's now considered by many people to be one of the most significant cultural events of our time. In other words, you can throw the kitchen sink in and say, hey, this guy deserves one time to play at this thing, because I figured if I played every place once, hey, I'd pay the bills. So I qualify for that. So I did the ruby slipper thing, and I'm good enough to and achieved enough and all that to play every place once. Now, instead of that didn't work out that way because some people just aren't fair. They're just not fair. They don't feel like they have to be fair. And there isn't a public that demands fairness either. There's nobody demanding fairness. But what did that do? That led me into philanthropic achievements that are way beyond my wildest dreams. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
So I'm happy with that, actually. I'm like okay with my result because I got something better. Now, I would have taken that, have been easier, but I got something better. So I'm per se have no reason to feel unjust, but just the fact that it was done
Right.
Yeah.
is an
Yeah.
injustice. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Even if
Let us
just
say a
because
few things
if
about
someone
that.
tries to kill you, even if they fail, you're like, wow, that's horrific that you would even try to do that. I've never done anything. Why would you even try to? So I feel that.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
unfortunately, because I have helped 850 people around the world, I've been all of these places: Pakistan, India, Nepal, Africa. I've been to New Orleans twice with Jazz for Peace to help. I did the United Way there. But anyway, because I've done all this, I feel I did concerts for Katrina in New York to help the Katrina victims. But that's just New Orleans. But I'm just saying, because of that, I feel all the injustice and I see it.
Yeah.
I
Me
see
too.
the
Yeah.
same
There's a
injustice
couple
that was
things.
done to so many
Let us
others.
give you some feedback.
So good.
There's a couple things. One, I first want to
Yeah.
honor your artistic expression and your perseverance
And creativity.
and creativity. And as we all know, when you choose to be an artist, it's a very vulnerable thing, and it's you have to constantly deal with not only applause but rejection.
Yeah. Lots.
And it sounds like there's been times where it was really unjust, and you experienced certain levels of rejection, and we want to honor that. And also the way you have parlayed your gift into giving life back to others. I mean, that's really obvious when you speak, is that it's very much connected to your artistry, is giving back and caring and loving others. And I think it's real important to understand that our unique histories and our hurts from our unique histories, uh, when we see something similar today in any forum, it will when we our emotions will be both about the present and the past.
Yeah.
Like, let me give you an example. I had played baseball when I was in college, and there was a time when I was struggling to whether to pursue the seminary or continue to play baseball. I ended up going to the seminary after a year, and it was a good decision, but it was also a painful decision because I loved baseball. And I remember years and years later, people would ask me about baseball. You know, I had played with Bo Jackson and I played at a major college, and there was a lot of stuff. People would ask me, and it was real hard to talk about it because it was just a sensitive area. I was watching a movie called A League of Their Own. My wife will remember it because she was there with me, and it was about a woman that was quitting baseball and stuff. And I was so incapacitated by emotional pain that I couldn't stop crying. I mean,
Yeah,
it was
and he
years
was
and years
driving.
later. Yeah, I was driving. I had to pull over the side of the road.
Yeah.
And it was so, and it's like the movie, like this movie did this to me. But I realized that I was seeing a dynamic in the movie that
Right.
was connecting to a dynamic that I was still unresolved internally. And the combination of that, maybe the movie deserved, out of a 1 to 10, might have deserved a 3 on the pain scale about me feeling compassion for that. But I was feeling a 9.5.
Yeah.
And so where's the other 6 coming from, right? And it was acknowledging the truth of that wound
Yeah.
and verbalizing it to my wife. I started doing some work in working with that and reconciling my heart with that decision, that I was able to let go of something. And I think that what's happening
Yeah.
perhaps is that when you see injustice,
Yeah.
it's it's bringing up both and, right? It's bringing up the injustice that is right now, and it's bringing up the injustices that you've passed in the past that is still aching for some level of expression and honoring and letting go and healing. And that's simultaneous. Like, that portion is about one and a portion is about another, but you don't know because it all comes up at once. It's just over. That's all you know, is it's overwhelming, right? There's no in between, right?
Right. 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 There's no, well, what happens, it appears that, here you are with your life, right? Here's Rick's life, right? And it's all those decisions have brought you to a place like, wow, I've been able to play all over the world. I've done all of this good. I've been able to give and still play, right? But then there's the other part that has all the memory of the injustice. And
Absolutely.
absolutely. And those are two different separate things
Yeah.
completely. Yeah. And then the part of you that, the injustice that part sees, I'm going to call him Big Eyes. Okay. He's Big Eyes. He sees all that. Right. And when he sees it, he feels it. So,
And I see the injustice that they did, and it's not them
right,
because it's really whack-a-mole. Whoever's in
right.
that position,
It-
this is a human nature thing. But I see
exactly.
what they did to Vincent van Gogh. You know what I mean?
Yes.
I see what they did to Mozart. If you look at the forward to this book, Paving the Path for Peace Through Music, I'm not the author, but I was asked to write the forward, and I
Right.
wrote the forward about Mozart. Because he was a child prodigy, but then he became better and he got punished because
Yeah.
he was exceeded
He's
that
right. He's
that minstrel type of person, that was safe for you to watch. And oh, isn't he cute?
yeah.
Now he's a great, so
Yeah.
or the jazz greats and all this. So I feel their injustice
Yeah.
because they were probably the bottom line is, because of the injustices that have happened to me, I feel everybody else's injustice.
Yes. And it's so, and what happens is, and this is universal because it's human. This is about being human. Okay. I had to learn how to embrace humanness. I hated being human, right? But this is part of it. It's like in that part of us that feels that injustice, it's always connected, as Dean was saying, to our injustice, our personal injustice, which helps us validate the realness of what happened to us, even though we came out ahead, even though, Mozart is Mozart, right? Even though it's like,
Well, he did die at 34.
Yeah,
and
I know.
buried enough, he didn't, well, the bottom line is, here's the other problem. I have solutions to these problems, and they could be so easily enacted. So I also wake up every day knowing that someone could listen to me and say, hey, wait a minute, let's have a broken-hearted clause in every festival, music festival, that you can apply for, where you just fell through the cracks, but guess what? You qualify up the wazoo. We're gonna give you the broken-hearted opportunity to play that one time. You know what I mean?
That's
These one
beautiful.
times are what keep you afloat.
Yes.
So that would be that. But even Israel and Palestine, I had a vote. Palestinians and Israelis voted together for my policy, 96%. And
Wow.
I can't get these people that want to kill each other to
Right.
look at what the people want. So in
Right.
other words, there's injustice, but there's also easy solutions
Yeah.
that we can't. So I have to wake up with that. It's easy to solve it, actually. I mean, that's
Yes.
tragic that you have an
It is
easy,
tragic.
all
It
the
is.
suffering is for nothing.
Right. And, you're so right. It is tragic. And for us, I'm saying us because we're both here, but, for me, it's like looking into it and saying, okay, even though it is tragic and even though there is a solution, because I don't have that control for them to hear, right? For them to open their hearts and hear, because it
Yeah.
needs to be many to hear to really have the solution that is all deserved, is that in my own self, that when I'm waking up with this heaviness, what is it that needs to be embraced and loved, so the heaviness starts to weigh down, where it gets smaller and smaller and smaller. So as I start to embrace and love the injustice internally that I've experienced, that I start to, list them. I start to list them and allow myself to love the parts of me that had all of these different times that was no, that they didn't hear, they didn't want to hear, they didn't want to do what was necessary to have that one play, right? To have that one out there, to have the justice that is deserved. So it's like, who has to love me through that is me. Like my true self, the part of me that is all that I am intended to be, all the part of me that has the solutions, right? The part of me that can see, is that part of me has to love the other part of me that sees all the injustice, but not only sees it, feels it.
Yeah.
And it's like, by me listing my own, or let's say the first thing I hear is, this particular one, then I want to know from internally, what does that remind me of? It reminds me of when this happened to me, when this happened to me. And what that means is that I need to learn to embrace that. So that part of me is having a voice. It's not discounting what I've chosen to do. It's not going to discount in what I'm going after. But what it will do is, what's happening is that ball of heaviness on top of me is where it's coming out. So by me allowing it to have a voice and me nurturing it, which I have no doubt you'll be able to do, but me nurturing it will allow that ball to get smaller and smaller and smaller. So that way, when I wake up, instead of my wounded self opening my eyes, that I start to be able to open my eyes and breathe much, much easier.
Yeah, there's another thing that's important, Rick, is that, and I'll give you an example. My son, it sounds very much like you, is very, very sensitive spiritually.
Spiritually,
Like he
yes.
picks up on atmospheres. He doesn't
Yes.
just pick up. He picks up on. He walks into maybe at a shopping mall. He'll walk into one store and feel depressed, and as soon as he leaves the store, he's fine.
Right.
And so he wasn't really depressed when he went in the
Right.
store. He was just actually picking up the atmosphere of that store.
Yes.
And then he left and he was fine. So I started to learn this about him. One time we were at church and they had a lady that sat next to him who had lots of mental issues. She was very sedated, just kind of dozing out. And so she sat next to my son. And during service, I looked at my son and the lady was like bobbing out. And I looked at my son and he was doing the same thing. He was bobbing out. And what I realized was that he actually wasn't experiencing mental issues or dementia or anything. He actually was picking up on her atmosphere.
Yes.
And because he was sensitive, it was just giving him information about how he could help someone. But it wasn't about him. It was about him absorbing the atmosphere. And as we've taught him as he's gotten older, is that we needed to teach him to separate what is about you and what is about you getting information so that you can assist.
Yeah.
So, to give you another example, he was in school, middle school, and he's never really had dark or suicidal thoughts that we know of, and we're not perfect parents, but, we have a good home. And he came home and he was struggling with dark thoughts and self-destructive thoughts. And I asked him, I said, who you've been hanging around with? Mm-hmm. And he got a new friend who was come from a real dysfunctional home, was really struggling, had lots of suicidal thoughts, was dealing with a lot of darkness. And he started hanging out with this young man, this boy. And he actually started taking on some of the stuff that the boy was carrying. But because he was having these thoughts and picking them up, he thought it was about himself.
Right.
And as I began to teach him, HollyKem and I, we taught him, we said, this is just you having compassion for him, but it's not you having these thoughts. It's not about you.
Right. It's not his.
It's not your own
life.
And once he started to put that together, he started to realize that he just has a sensitive spirit that picks up on atmospheres, picks up on what other people are dealing with. And that's separate from who he really is. And once he began to develop the skill to separate that sum, he took the heaviness as information, but not about him.
Right.
And I think that's really the challenge for you, is that it's beautiful that you have a sensitive spirit, that you pick up on atmospheres, that you have compassion for the micro and the macro. And the challenge would be, my challenge would be for you, is to realize that some of the information that you're feeling is not really about you. It's about what you're picking up on, and that you can work on taking it as information, but not taking it on deeply in a sense that it's about me. And it's very well possible is that in the mornings when you wake up, there's a certain vulnerability you have to the atmosphere because you're just vulnerable when we're sleeping, and that you're picking that up. And it's almost like being able to take it on as information to be able to direct some of your actions and to say, this is not about me. Right. It's not about me. Now, if it was about you, that's talking about HollyKem part about loving your own unique history. Because if it's part of your history coming up, then you need to be able to love that part to life again. Yeah. And to do validation. And there's things that we can do about that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does make sense. I love that because, I believe it could be both things. Is that in having that, it reminds you of old things, but knowing that I've come out of that, right? But it may be some things that just deserve more love because, right? And then from there, it's like what you're saying, Dean, is that, you have this ability, like our son, that you can pick up what's in the world. So it's like from there, it's like, wow, what an opportunity to create from that way. It's kind of like you playing that particular song, like you were thinking about what this show was and, what we were going to be doing. And what came to your spirit was to play this particular song that, even though you're in pain, smile, right? And it's like acknowledging both parts. And it's like from there, it's like having that ability to take that heaviness and be able to create from there, what is the message? What is the healing message from all of that heaviness? Because, you're not going to be the only one feeling that, at any moment, a human being can wake up to the sadness and the pain of the world. You just happen to, it's brought to you every day.
Yeah.
Especially in your adulthood, it's like you really have this ability to connect to the pain of the world. And that, one of the things is when someone can have a voice for that, it could be more than a one-hit wonder, right? It can be a life message to all of us that how to how to embrace that, and how to pray for that, how to send positive love, how to be the love of the world underneath this umbrella of heaviness that we all walk through daily. So, there's the way for like Dean was saying, like you have this message from the universe, and then how, because you have this gift to be able to bring healing to the world.
Yeah, so good. Well, let's wind this down. We're going to ask you, Rick, what's one takeaway that you have for today? And then HollyKem and I are going to give a takeaway for the audience. So what's one takeaway you've taken from our coaching today?
Well, for me, it's, I know what you've made me aware of is that, once, like I know when I'm in the day and once I'm navigating and once I have all my faculties to address things, I can look at adversity as a challenge. I can look at it as a positive. I can be happy to be in a position to be in the trenches, to be able to help and fight somebody or whatever. But when I wake up in the morning, I don't have those resources to fight and to get all those, alternate side looks at it, and so I'm hit with a ton of bricks, and I need to find a way to kind of sidestep a lot of it so that I'm maybe looking at it from a distance instead of head on or something. And so that I'm able to, get closer to where I am in midday, let's say, when I have when I'm able to navigate, and I might even find comfort in the adversity. But, I know I need to really distinguish the two and look at it in a perspective.
Yeah.
Yes, that's really good. And one takeaway that I would encourage the audience, if you're dealing with something similar, is to consider doing, when you wake up in the morning, is to just do some tangential writing. Like just whatever's coming to mind. I feel heaviness because this, I experienced this, I'm upset with this. And there's something valuable to when something is internally processing to externally processing and getting relief. So that would be one thing that I would encourage everyone to do. And you also, Rick, is to try that a few mornings to see if you get any relief, but just to write out without editing whatever's coming to mind and externalizing what's going on. The second takeaway, I think, for everybody is the fact that we all can absorb atmospheres, situations, family atmospheres. If HollyKem's upset, I have to respond to that. So I'm going to be picking up on that on some level. But to ask the question, what is about me and what is not about me? And to be able to take full responsibility for what is about me, but also care for, but don't take on what's not about me, to begin to try to separate those two. What is your takeaway?
Yeah, that's good. Well, I would say that in the morning, when I would wake up, if I was you, I would say, good morning, happy. Good morning, happy. And just acknowledge that it's here, acknowledge it, and not let it sit on me, but just acknowledge it, which means I'm taking it and I'm externalizing it. I'm pushing it off. And then I can get some distance from it and say, what is it that you want to talk to me about today, heavy? And let me hear, what am I hearing today? Is it the war? Is it the homelessness? Is it, what is it that I am hearing? And allow myself just to not be afraid of it. Let it talk to me. Take a deep breath. And then from there, I believe you will hear the answer that needs to come out. Like, well, this is what I'm going to do, or this is what I'm not going to do, But it's like allowing the heavy to have a voice. So then Rick could have a voice, and that separation becomes where you start the middle of the day in the morning.
That's good.
Yeah.
One last thing, I'm going to circle back to what I said at the beginning. Sting, who I absolutely love, he wrote a song called Lithium Sunset years and years ago. And I was fascinated by the song, so I was doing the research on it. And what happened was that there was a Brazilian biochemist who discovered that when you look at the deep red rays of a sunset or a sunrise, it actually goes through your irises and creates a natural form of lithium in your brain. And lithium has been taken for years to help people with manic depression and so forth. But and it increases serotonin, it increases dopamine, and so what this Brazilian biochemist discovered was the deep red rays of the sun when they go through your eyes actually increases the feel good chemicals in your brain. And so if you've ever been to a beach and you watch a sunset, you often think it's because of the beach and the beautiful waves and the hitting the so that's part of it. But part of it is actually you have this feel good chemical going on and being created in your brain. So if any of you all are struggling with depression, this is your prescription from the doc, is to go watch 3 sunsets a week and see the impact that it has on your brain. But we're going to end with that. We thank you so much, Rick. I just want to honor you as an artist and as a musician, and your compassion for people, for causes, your heart for the world. And, it's just an honor in working with you. And we just bless that in you, bless that. And may it always be a part that gives life and not a part that ends up being a frustration or a burden for you, but actually the opposite. But thank you so much for joining us. And until next time, we say, God bless, have a voice, and we hope you enjoyed this episode of Transform You.
Are you ready to embark on a journey of personal transformation and inner healing? Our intensive online coaching program is designed for individuals and couples seeking to reconnect with their true selves. Dive into our lessons, activations, live coaching calls, and educational readings tailored to uncover limiting beliefs, healing emotional wounds, and to cultivate a life filled with authenticity. Transform yourself, transform your relationships. It's time to transform you. See the description below to see how to join Transform You.
Smile though your heart is aching. Smile even though it's breaking when there are clouds in the sky. You'll get by if you smile through your fear and sorrow. Smile and maybe tomorrow you'll see the sun come shining through for you. Lights up your face with gladness, hide every trace of sadness. Although a tear may be ever so near, that's the time you must keep on trying. Smile, what's the use of crying? You'll find that life is still worthwhile. smile even though it's breaking. When there are clouds in the sky, you'll get by. If you smile through your fear and sorrow, smile